Okay, so again, this zigzag pattern, again, this is a broken record thing for me, is really going to be important now when you do this guy's boots. If you look down at the bottom of his boots, you see all that little cluster of wrinkles and folds. Really important to get that depicted really well here. So I'm getting very conscious of this rolling motion now that you've pointed it out. So
now, when you finish a session, do you bake these to harden them?
Well, not bake. As I was saying earlier, I'll put them in the oven at 170 degrees for about 25 minutes. That's not really intended to bake them. It's just to accelerate the curing time on the putty. Yeah. Okay, so this is really an important part of getting these boots to look right. Is getting that.
When I was a little tyke, my grandparents lived right outside of Gettysburg, and I can remember having picnics in the battlegrounds and playing in Devil's Den.
Oh wow!
That's cool.
I know that when we
artifacts.
Hmm?
Did you go around looking for artifacts?
Well, at that time I was just a little guy, it was just,
Yeah.
My grandfather was a country preacher in a little town just outside of Gettysburg, so we'd go up there on holidays, and quite often we'd go to Gettysburg for picnics and so forth.
I remember, what was that guy's name? Johnson, that used to come to the skates from back east.
oh Rick Johnson.
He talked about walking around one of the battlefields when he was a kid with his dad. Kicked at some dirt, and there was a Civil War buckle.
Oh wow!
Just knocked over a rock or something. And just picked it up.
There's nowadays it's technically illegal to pick anything.
Oh yeah, you get thrown.
Now,
in
does
jail.
that keep people from picking up? If you stumble on something, it's like,
Nobody sees them.
yeah, I'm not sure. I'd just leave it laying there. I mean, shoot.
Too hard to resist.
Next guy.
Somebody asked me where I got it. Oh, my grandfather gave it.
They just don't want you going digging.
Exactly. They don't want you with metal detectors because. But in reality, there have been people looking for relics there ever since like the day after the battle. Mm-hmm. So I mean, does that mean there's nothing there? Well, no, it doesn't mean that. It just means that the quality of things you're likely to find at this stage is going to be more than likely pretty modest.
But then in time, Earth tends to turn over, so things that were buried years and years ago can be coming to the surface.
Well, and the other thing to remember is that all over the battle, I'm going to pass this around now. There, I think that's in pretty good shape. Right, a little bit. It's not really at the consistency I'd like it to be for this, but I'm going to flatten this out a little bit. I'm going to try to make a little half moon shape that I can cut off. Again, I'm using the rolling motion. Very conscious of that. And I'm just trying to keep it moist here so I can get it off my board.
I assume that is non-toxic clay.
If it's toxic, I'm in big trouble.
We've been joking with him.
Everybody's been joking with me for years about that. Yeah.
You're probably immune to it now, though. It's like taking it.
If it was going to take me, I would have been taken long ago. So it's very waxy consistency. It doesn't really. A and B is a little more scary because it's kind of sticky stuff. It's more likely to stay with you. But this is almost like wax. Okay, you can see I just kind of flattened out the end as thin as I could get it. Usually I like this to dry more so it's a little stiffer. And what I'll do here, this shape will probably not be perfect. It'll probably be a little ragged around the edge for my liking, but when it dries, I'll go back and probably sand it a little bit. Just use some real fine emery paper here just to make sure I have a nice crisp edge. But I'm trying to pick that up on my toothpick here, and I'm going to graft that onto the top of this boot. Again, I'm just trying to create that little knee guard I was noticing earlier. And once I get it attached, I just gotta kind of gently feather the part into the boot so it looks like it's part of it. If I can't get that perfectly, I'll let it dry, then I'll just use I'll just use my knife and just kind of trim the details there. Okay, well that's not too bad. There's always a lot of pressure in trying to sculpt good in front of all you people here, so I don't want it to suck. It was a great line I read recently. I kind of sent it to some people at work, and it was a line that Joe DiMaggio supposedly said late in his career, and it was somebody asked him, he was running real hard to first base on a routine ground ball to second. He had no chance to beat it out, and he was just running it. The game was like 8-0 Yankees in the 8th inning. And he came into the dugout. He was right near the end of his career. He was like 38 years old. All kinds of aches and pains and injuries and everything else he was playing with. And somebody asked him, he said, "Joe, what are you trying so hard right now in this game for? I mean, with all the things you're going through." And he said, "Well," he said, "there's some people up in the stands who have either never seen me play or this is the last time they're going to see me play. I do it for them." I thought, well, those are words to live by. You're always proving yourself. There's always somebody there that hasn't seen you sculpt when you're really at your best. So they're going to walk away saying, "Oh, God, that thing that Bill sculpted today, it really sucked, man. He's really losing his grip." So, okay. All right. Well, that's not too bad. Now you can see that I've done an imperfect job of grafting this onto the bottom part of that, to the main part. I'm going to take a stab at a beard here of this guy. Let's see. So, all the other photos of him, and I didn't bring the other ones. There's a bunch of them online, but he's wearing his nice Major General uniform. He's obviously combed his hair and everything's neatly trimmed and all of that. And the beard looks a little more dramatic in those pictures. Here it looks a little shorter and scruffier, but it's still pointed, which is neat. But look at that great mustache. That's a great mustache. Wish I could grow one of those. My wife wouldn't appreciate it. Come on. She just wouldn't appreciate the beauty of it. I'm going to put a little extra blue in this because I haven't finished this guy's neck either. That's the other detriment to doing the beard now. So
That kind of looks kind of like a Billy the Kid hat. Where Billy the Kid had
really
that dent in
cool
that hat.
I just really wonder if that. I'm inclined to say Jim's right.
It's
It's
dented.
dented.
Drastic, because they had standard civilian hats and then also purchase hats, but I wouldn't do anything.
You can
make it
see
look out of the
if you look really closely, you can even see the tape around the edge of the brim.
It's a nice hat.
This is a very nice hat.
They got wet and they get wet and they get dirty.
Right. Make it more, he's a field officer, so maybe more a little bit.
Yeah. I think that's really cool. Okay.
Maybe whacked it.
Other thing that's worth noting, look how high that belt line is. And, back then, nowadays we tend to wear our belts a lot lower on our bodies. But back then it was more in fashion to wear belts kind of around your belly button. It's a different kind of look. It's really hard to force yourself to sculpt a figure to put a belt that high on a figure. Because it just doesn't look natural to us nowadays.
It doesn't seem right.
It just doesn't seem right. Okay, let's take a stab at this here. I usually start off by kind of creating a little kind of moon shape for a beard like this. And again, I'm just trying to get this kind of slapped on the guy's face to begin with. And then I'll start playing around with it. Just kind of stick it around in like a little semicircle. And again, I'm trying to keep from sticking my thumb in what I sculpted down here, which I probably will do just to demonstrate. That's not nearly enough hair for this guy's beard. But I mainly want to just show you guys what some of the things you can do with the texture with this putty, because it's really good for this sort of thing. But again, like any kind of sculpting, how much putty you put on, having the right amount, not too much, not too little, really important. And I always like to get the beard part done first. The mustache is a completely separate thing as far as I'm concerned. That's something that'll happen after the beard's done.
Did you do the head, or is that a hornet?
I think this one's a hornet head. I usually start off with hornet heads, but this one I've got to go back and change the eyes and play around with the nose. I haven't really had a chance to study his facial profiles and facial features yet. I don't think he had a really unusual nose. A little bit of a Roman nose. That's probably a pretty good likeness. And a lot of these guys have death masks made of themselves, which makes it a little easier to understand some of the features. Now you can use a fine toothpick like this for this kind of sculpting, which I usually do, but there are places where I might even use my X-Acto knife. I'm not trying to really get every little hair detailed. I'm trying to mainly get a little bit of the general look of the beard. The main thing is getting the shape right and then just getting its coarseness right. And again, I want this guy to look like he's in the field. He's not sitting around, touching up his beard all the time. It's just going to be where it's going to be.
Now, when you finish a figure like this, does that become a master for other figures, or is it a
No,
one-off?
mine are always one-off.
One-off?
I've only ever done, I think, 2 masters, and I only did those when I felt like I was forced into it. Yeah, I don't enjoy doing figures. The problem is I don't like to have to think about how to
mold?
get things in and out of a mold. Those are problems I prefer to leave to the professionals.
Because with the rubber molds you had today, you can use a lot of undercuts and they come out pretty well if you're not going to mold too many copies.
Yeah. You're also taking some things out of your own hands, though, and putting them in the hands of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very persnickety about the way, getting everything exactly right. And if something is done and then it doesn't look right anymore, it's still my name on it.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that knows that the casting isn't right is me. And but I can't possibly persuade everybody who sees it that wasn't my fault. Plus, when I'm done with a figure, I'm ready to move on to the next one. I don't like to spend a lot of time agonizing over, the figure that I've just finished. I'm eager to just move on to the next one.
Do you have any figures that you keep for yourself?
I have not one.
Not
one. I have pictures of hundreds.
Yeah.
I do not have one in my collection. Okay, well that's not too bad. It's a little rough. There's a pretty good idea of what you can do beard-wise, if that's a word. That's just the beard.